On today's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, we are doing a big time bets and DFS extravaganza.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You heard the music and you know what time it is. It's time for the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Flip and Steele. Welcome back, everybody, to Wednesday's episode. This is episode number 35 of the reboot of this show with Steele and I. Thank you for joining us every single day, Monday to Friday. And thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We appreciate all the love and all the support. Continue to hit us up on Twitter. You know where to find us across all platforms you find your favorite content. On today's episode, Steele, we're doing something a little different today because while the trade deadline is approaching, things are getting a little quiet in the NHL world. So instead of focusing on, something breaking or news or trades, we're going to dive right into what we do best today, aren't we? Doing DFS and big-time bets, our locks of the night. We are doing an extravaganza for betting and picks. You know I'm fired up for it. I hope you're as fired up for it. I have a bunch of picks. I did a little bit too much research, went down the rabbit hole this morning. Welcome back, my friend. Wednesday's episode, number 35. We're picking up steam. You're back in the win column. Let's go.
We are. Hey, we're back in the win column. You know what it feels like right now, Flip? It feels like the calmness before the storm. Literally nothing happening besides that Josh Manson trade yesterday. But right now, it honestly feels like the calm before the storm. And rolling into the weekend, it seems like there's going to be a lot of trades happening.
Hey, you said it. Calm before the storm. Big time. Could not say it any better. You hope that maybe with that Manson trade, hearing about the Jacob Chikrin 2 to 4 week injury. So, he's still going to be a valuable piece for some teams down the stretch if they want to add him. So maybe now that these little things are happening, maybe we'll see the floodgates opening. But 6 weeks till playoff hockey, my friend, this is going to be, we said it's a quiet time. So today we're focusing on bets and DFS targets. So stay tuned for that. But, maybe we're now going to see a bit of a crazy 6 weeks, like you said.
Hopefully so. I'm really looking forward to the trade deadline, down the stretch going into the playoffs, even fantasy league playoffs happening in the next couple of weeks. I'm very excited. I don't know where you're at in your league. I'm sitting around 4th and 5th right now. So I'm hopefully I can win a couple of my next matchups and get up to the top 3 and, have a better position. But I'm looking forward for these next weeks. It's going to be crazy looking for the waiver wire targets. And, we'll get all of that going out for you guys too as well.
I like to hear that you're sitting in good position, sounds like striking position, which is a good spot to be in. I'll be honest. I've had a tough year with my goalies again. Shocker. People who know me, I'm like riddled with goaltending. It's like a plague with me. Carter Hart, I thought was going to turn the page this season, and he just has not. This is not a Carter Hart special because I would need a few wobbly pops to get me through that one, Steele. But you know what, man? I'm excited to do this. Let's take a deep look at DFS today, a deep look at our big-time bets. I know you're the DFS guru, the puck line king, so let's hear what you got going on. Let's start with DFS. Where are you looking? Wednesday's 4-game board, I believe. I usually mess up at least one number, but I believe I'm looking at it right today.
Yeah,
Wednesday's
you got it right.
Game. What are we doing today, my friend?
Yeah, 4 games on the schedule. A couple of interesting matchups. I didn't go with the Ottawa Senators for Monday's night, and, thankfully so. I went with the team with the hot hands. Look, the Ottawa Senators, they played a great game. I watched that game. They played a great game. Philip Gustafsson was just not the right call to start in the crease that night. He was letting in muffins, 3 or 4 goals on 12 shots, while Scott Wedgwood made like almost 50 saves in that game. So I went the right direction for Monday night. I'm going with the Ottawa Senators for Wednesday's game for that first matchup against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Yeah. Well, looking at the way the roster for the Blue Jackets is lining up right now, it doesn't look very good. They've got a lot of injuries.
Yes, sir.
Jenner, their captain's out. Jakub Voracek's out of the lineup as well. They got a couple more out there, some top guys as well. So even though I usually go with the Blue Jackets, the way their lineup is shaping up right now with all those injuries, I don't really like it. So I'm aiming towards the Ottawa Senators for Wednesday's game. Brady Tkachuk, Josh Norris. And I really like the way Nick Paul's played, even though he hasn't been very productive offensively. I like the way he's played. He can be a very cheap option to fill your utility spot. And then I also like Vladislav Gavrikov on the Columbus Blue Jackets as well. Again, not a guy who's going to do a ton offensively. He does have up to 25 points on the season, but again, he's going to be another cheap option you can fill on the blue line and save some of your money for the second matchup I want to get into.
I got a good feeling about this one, Steele. This is exactly where I was going to go as well. And as much as I've talked up the Ottawa Senators, I've talked up Josh Norris, and he's playing well. But, those things are happening, and you can see how much talent they do have. You just mentioned it. And you also mentioned, literally my first point here in my notes was those are some key injuries for a Blue Jackets team who is not offensively deep. Yeah. That forward group has holes all up and down the lineup, even when they're healthy. They're not healthy right now. If Voracek is also out, I think he's going to be a game-time decision. Laine's just back again from I think he was out for a game or two with a minor injury. Either way, though, I think there is also, Ottawa Senators all day, for sure. That's obvious. But I also think there's some value here in a couple of sneaky guys on the Columbus Blue Jackets to fill out your roster. Cole Sillinger is fresh off his first career hat trick. Also, I did not know this, Steele. He's 18 years old still. Yeah. 12th overall draft pick in the recent draft. And I know his, 21 points this season doesn't jump off the page. He throws the body. He gets shots. He blocks shots. And I like where his game is going, clearly, after a hat trick game. And also guys like Max Domi, 6 points in 5 games with this increased opportunity. Like you said, though, a lot of holes in the lineup. So if you're looking to augment, I definitely see some value down the lineup on the Blue Jackets. But you mentioned the guys on the Sens, and I'm going to stop talking. But Stützle, Norris, Tkachuk, all been red hot, all even when losing, still producing. Yeah. So I think you can't go wrong targeting this game from a DFS perspective.
There are some, cheap, valuable options towards some players on that Columbus Blue Jackets team. I was also looking, maybe the Boston Bruins Minnesota Wild game. I was very uneasy looking at that matchup, so I stayed away from that actual game, and I went towards another Canadian team. The Calgary Flames versus the New Jersey Devils is my second matchup I'm looking at, and of course I've got to go with those top guys: Johnny Gaudreau, Elias Lindholm. I won't be able to afford Matthew Tkachuk because I'm taking Jakob Markstrom in net, and then Rasmus Andersson on the blue line, just because he's been absolutely fantastic. Definitely their best defenseman. But all 4 of the guys I just mentioned on the Flames team, they're having unreal seasons. To me, I don't know if he might be the most underrated, but for me, he is the most underrated player in the NHL, Elias Lindholm. I've been saying this for the last 2-3 years, ever since he's come over from a couple years ago, when he left the Carolina Hurricanes and joined the Calgary Flames. Ever since then, I've been telling everyone for many, many years now that he's the most underrated player in the NHL, and every single year he continues to be productive. So I like the way Elias Lindholm's playing. Johnny Gaudreau is having an unreal season as well. All 4 of those guys I mentioned, those are the guys I'm going with. And they're going to be around, $6,000, $7,000 as well.
I like how this conversation is shaping up because I'm augmenting all your picks quite nicely with the guys that I'm looking at, because I see this game that's actually going to hopefully be, because I might sprinkle a bet on it. I don't know. This New Jersey Devils team, I think, deserves a little bit of credit because over their last 4 games, they're 3-1. Those wins, though, Blues, Avs, and Ducks. Those are 3 pretty good teams. West Coast teams, too. Like the New Jersey Devils are not good. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about this one too long, but to augment those pricey picks that you just mentioned, that you can't go wrong because we know the Devils goalies cannot stop a beach ball. Shout out to Kevin Domoratsky on that one. Guys like Pavel Zacha, cheap. 1 goal, 4 assists in his last 7 games. Dawson Mercer, cheap. Playing on the second line, getting a ton of points. Jesper Bratt, going to pay a little bit more for him. 5 points in 4 games. And then the premium, but I think you can't sleep, and we've talked about this guy, Jack Hughes, man. 7 goals and 12 assists in his last 15 games or 12 games. He's on fire right now. So as much as I don't think you can go wrong with the Flames guys, that's where I would go first too. Definitely look to augment your roster a little bit because I think this is going to be a good spot for the Devils to get some points up.
Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with Jack Hughes. I just stayed away from the New Jersey Devils because they, this is their second game of a back-to-back. They play Vancouver Tuesday night. So stayed away from the New Jersey Devils players a little bit. Another couple of cheap options from the other matchups across the league. Ryan Donato of the Seattle Kraken. He's been pretty great over the last 5 games. Jake DeBrusk, that top line has slowed down in the last week and a half as well, but he's still playing on the top line. Matt Boldy of the Minnesota Wild, and then Vince Dunn again of the Seattle Kraken. So those are going to be some cheap options for you out there, to fill those voids of after you get those expensive players. But again, there's 4 matchups, a ton of players to pick from. And, for me, I'm sticking at those 2 Canadian teams, the Ottawa Senators and the Calgary Flames.
I like it. And I have actually one more target for DFS that we'll hit right after the break, and then we'll jump into big time bets because I have too many picks going down for Wednesday night. But stay tuned for that. I'll talk about my last DFS selection right after the break. But that break is going to break down Built Bars. They're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's 100p real chocolate. Low calorie, high protein. You know what you're going to do. You're going to replace the doo-doo candy bars with these. They are better. A typical candy bar will run you anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. It's beach season coming up. We're trying to get these. Go to built.com and it's time to get healthy. You'll be blown away. High protein, low calorie, high fiber, low carb. What else do you need me to say? Most Built Bars contain only 130 calories and only 4 net carbs. Let's go. Compare that to the candy bar, 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and too many net carbs. None of that is good for you. At Built, it's all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first and figure out how to make it healthy after. I don't know how, but they pull it off every time. You've heard this before. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15, and get 15% off.
Thank you for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. Make sure you tune in on Monday, March 21st at 3:30 Eastern Time for our live trade deadline reaction show to get all the on-ice and fantasy and betting analysis you need from myself and Flip Livingstone over there, with appearances from our roster of local team experts. You don't want to miss out on Monday. Over the weekend, there's going to be a lot of trades, especially going into Monday evening. So again, you got to keep your eyes peeled for this show on Monday, March 21st. You don't want to miss it. All the trades, all the analysis, all the betting happening Monday, March 21st. Make sure you tune out for that. And thank you so much for supporting the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Show. Flip and I appreciate that support and love so much. So thank you so much for that. Flip, big time bets. You said you had a lot of bets going into Wednesday night with only 4 games on the schedule. Let's hear your first one. Where's the money at?
Too many. There is some money to be had. I just wanted to mention one more thing about DFS because I really like this spot for a goalie selection. I know you mentioned Markstrom, but I think also take a look at that Boston Bruins Minnesota Wild game for Jeremy Swayman. Linus Ullmark played last night. That's confirmed. Swayman has been sensational. 17-7-3 with 3 shutouts, but I did not notice this, and this is where I'm going to stop with DFS. He has got the 4th best save percentage in the league at .926 and is tied for best in the league at a 2.06 goals against average. Those are numbers that cannot be ignored. The Minnesota Wild have only scored 2 games each game over their last 2. I think this is a good spot for Jeremy Swayman DFS. Tease, this is going right into my picks because I got a few for this game. So, Steele, I'm going with the Boston Bruins Minnesota Wild game under the number. I think this is going to be, we've talked about it. We've talked about good teams going up against each other with the playoffs looming. I see this being a dirty, nitty-gritty, tight check-in, low-scoring game that goalies, Jeremy Swayman, these are good spots for these goalies. I don't know. I'm just feeling the under here, Steele. -110, under 6. I'm going to keep it that simple right now because I just said it. Tight checking, low-scoring game. Let's get it.
Hey, go with your gut here. I think it's a little bit risky, especially with the play of the goaltenders for the Minnesota Wild. But
gambling.
Go with your gut feeling here. If you feel it, put the money down. We'll see what happens, and hopefully you come out with some extra money on the other side. My first pick, I usually connect my DFS to my big time bets. Senators money line versus the Blue Jackets. I just feel it. We already mentioned it. There's so many injuries on the Columbus Blue Jackets that they're dealing with right now.
Yep.
And the Senators have been a really great team. They've just had some really tough matchups the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to go with the Senators on the money line for my first pick.
I like that, Steele, because I'm going to get to that game in a second. But let me finish off with the Bruins here, because little stat for you. You know I like me some stats. Bruins are 7-3 in their last 10 against the Wild, but 2 of those losses were close 1-goal games. One was an overtime loss. The Bruins play well against this Wild team of late. But I will say this. The Bruins play in a lot of close games.
Yeah.
We mentioned the back-to-back, which makes me nervous, especially because this Wild team should be hungry after not playing the greatest over the last couple of weeks. We know they're a good home team, so I think this is a measuring stick game. I've said it a bunch. So I'm chickening out here. The Bruins have played 6 of their last 7 games were 1-goal games. Even when they win, it's a 1-goal game. I'm taking the Bruins on the puck line plus 1.5 for a dirty minus 300. I'm scraping this out, Steele, but I think this is a free win. I like the under. I like the Bruins to keep it close, and I'm getting a little crazy here. Obviously, I've been looking at these numbers too long. It's not going to be a great odd, so maybe parlay this together because, you're not going to make a ton at minus 300, but that's my lock of the night right there.
Look, the odds aren't great, but again, you said it. The Boston Bruins are usually in very, very close games, especially when they win or lose. So
it's a fact.
The plus 1.5, I like the pick there. I just don't like the odds. There's not a lot of money to be made. So
odds are garbage, and I'm calling it right now. But you parlay it with something else and thank me later. Okay, I'm being honest. I don't have the gall to take the Bruins straight up on the money line, but I'm gonna do a little sprinkle. But for the sake of this show and for the sake of my lock, I'm going dirty. I'm selling out, Steele. I'm selling out.
All right, we'll see what happens. You could be onto something here with getting some not so great prices and then parlaying them together and seeing what happens. So I like that side of your bets right now. My second pick for Wednesday night, the Calgary Flames on the puck line versus the New Jersey Devils. I think this team is just too good and very, very underrated heading to the playoffs. Like, I know looking at the other teams, the Panthers, the Hurricanes, the Avalanche, when you try to throw the Calgary Flames in there, it looks like, what are you doing here? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But the Calgary Flames are up in that tier as a serious contending playoff team. And, I think this game is going to be high scoring. We know the Devils score a lot of goals, even when they lose as well. The Flames have just, like you mentioned it in yesterday's episode, that Sean Monahan being on the fourth line, that shows how incredible depth they have going into the down the stretch of the season. I like the Flames on the puck line versus the Devils, but my lock of the night, Matthew Tkachuk, anytime assist, that will be my lock of the night.
Going flip style, running the streak of anytime assist. I don't hate it at all. That's a game that I'm staying away from. Again, I'm gonna be investing a bit too much money on the Bruins minus 300. I don't have enough to throw around on these other games. With that said, though, I still have 2 picks. They both come from the Columbus game. I told you my lock of the night, Bruins plus 1.5 on the puck line. But I also really like this Ottawa game, Steele. You've talked up the angles that, I like as well for the Sens. I'm not going to get too much into it other than this. Tim Stützle is a great option on DFS. You mentioned it, but also I like this spot for him tonight. 3rd overall pick is getting a ton of power play one time with Norris, Tkachuk, and Shabbat. And over his last 5 games, he has 8 points, 4 of those assists coming on the power play. This team scores on the power play not as much as it should. I think they're going to continue to get better. They're at the bottom in power play percentage or near it, but that's turning around in a hurry. I like the Tim Stützle anytime assist, and I also like this game over, Steele. We know that the Senators goalies have been struggling. We know the Columbus Blue Jackets are involved in a lot of high-scoring games, and I'll say this. The total has gone over the number in 4 of Ottawa's last 5 games at home, and the total has gone over the number in 4 of Columbus's last 6 games in Ottawa. I like the over 6 at minus 125, and I really do feel like the Tim Stützle anytime assist is free money right now for a guy who's playing really well and getting a lot of that power play time.
I watched that game against the Arizona Coyotes, and to me, Tim Stützle was one of the best players on the ice. He was comfortable on the power play, skating around, taking his time and not getting too flustered. He's looked really great. So even though he's not been, I think his stats could be a little bit better than what we've seen than what they are right now.
Agreed.
But the way he's actually playing looks very, very good and very, very comfortable. So I like the Tim Stützle anytime assist just by the way he's been playing. It seems like, again, with Alexis Lafreniere, those guys are starting to find their footing in the NHL. And even though if they're not producing, they're getting more comfortable. I like the anytime assist from Tim Stützle, but that is not Flip's lock of the night. Flip's lock of the night is +1.5 Boston Bruins on the puck line. My lock of the night is anytime Matthew Tkachuk assist, anytime against the New Jersey Devils. Lock it in, pencil it in, put your money down. Flip and I are here to make you the big bucks, so you got to put your money down to make the big bucks. Thank you for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. If you want more gambling advice on what you should pick, but for not just hockey, make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all podcast platforms, just like this podcast right here. So please make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. Flip and I appreciate all the support and all the love you give us out there. So thank you so much. So please hammer the subscribe and follow button. And once you do, you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast as soon as they're available each and every day, Monday to Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. So make sure you subscribe and follow to get the latest episodes. And thank you again for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.